So here we are at the beginning of part 2. This is literally a few seconds after I filmed the closing off of part 1 because it's going to roll right into part 2. If you haven't seen part 1 of this time lapse, the link will be up above in the corner. You guys can go over there, take a look at how I got to this point in the construction of this airframe. From here on out, it's going to be painting, it's going to be weathering, it's going to be fiddly bits, decals, all the final stuff I need to get this thing finished. So the next step, which you'll see here in a second, I'm going to get this painted in the gloss black base coat in preparation for Alclad. So let's get to it. Okay, so here we are. It's relatively quick in the video, but it's time for an update because the airframe is prepped in the gloss black base. That is the Alclad brand black primer. It's always good to let this sit for a while before you start handling it. This has been about 24 hours since I got the initial paint down. And when I do this, I do wear a glove as well. You do not want to get your fingers in any of this before it hardens. Fingerprint in a black base is very, very difficult and takes a lot of effort to clean up and ensure it's ready to go. So be very careful when you're handling these things. As I said, I use a latex glove when I'm handling it while I paint, and I always make sure it sits for a while before I touch it again, just to ensure that it is ready to go. All of these extra pieces here, I am also going to get ready to paint with the Alclad. So all the gear doors, the slipper tank. I think I might have mentioned I was going to paint the slipper tank just basic aluminum. I decided to go with Alclad. It's going to look really good. I like the look of Alclad, so why not? But I'm just going to get all of these ready to go, and then I can go in there and start giving it a shot. I'm going to use, I believe I'm going to use airframe aluminum overall, and then I'll go back with regular aluminum and pick out some highlights and stuff all around it to make it look good. And yeah, so let's get right into this. I do have a tips and tricks video out on Alclad. I'll put a link to it above. It is a little dated. I do need to go and kind of do a part 2 to that video and do some more kind of in-depth talk and some actual painting so you guys can set the camera up properly in the paint booth with some lights so you guys can actually see the process. So that might be something I do a little more in the future. But for now, that is there if you want to see that, and we'll get this thing Alcladded ASAP. Okay, so it is painted. It's Alclad. It's clear coated. I'm going to let that sit for a solid 24 hours before I do anything else. I got to sort out the canopy situation. I got to figure out the blue. The instructions call it matte blue plus satin varnish, so just a matte blue color. The Airfix instructions give me a Humbrol code, so I just got to figure out what that blue is. Something close to that color, so I can go ahead and try to track down something. I do have a blue color provided. Well, provided. You know what? That's that's damn close. So that's the blue I'm going to use. It's going to take a little bit of effort. I gotta, if memory serves, that blue is a little translucent. Anyways, I'm going to have to sort that out. I might just do it by hand. Not sure yet. Anyways, that's a problem for future me. So as I said, it has been painted, alclad, it's been clear coated. The clear coat left some artifacts, which I'm not very happy with. It like ate through the color a little bit and gave it a speckled finish, which I'm not, but it still makes it look a little bit weathered and dirty. I painted it in airframe aluminum, which is a little darker than I would have liked. But, you know, again, it looks like it's being used, so not sure. I kind of wish I'd gone with a regular aluminum, to be perfectly honest, but it's a little late for that now. I did highlight some of the panels in regular aluminum, which you can see, and I feel like it may have come across a bit better if I painted the whole thing that color. But what are you gonna do? It's done now. These are painted in regular aluminum as well, so you can. It's gonna have a bit of variation when you add things like that, or the gear door. There'll be a little bit of variation in the color, as well as the radiator tub exhaust doors. So there's a bit of a variation in color there, and then when you do the decals, I think the decals are just gonna make this pop. If I can find, there we go, with the red stripe and the maple leaf and the imperial oil. I think it's just gonna look really, really good when this is done. And then just a hint of exhaust staining with that bright blue canopy and spinner. I think it's just gonna look absolutely, absolutely amazing. So at this point, there is, see, I gotta get in here and paint the radiators front and back still. That'll be painted Vallejo aluminum. Long story short, this is basically done. There's no more painting really for this other than the canopy and the spinner, and then picking out some details, getting the decals done, and then it's basically finished. So this is going to be sitting for a while. I have a lot of other work to do on other kits before I can get back to this. So it is what it is. Again, I kind of wish I had done a slightly lighter shade, but you can see with that reflection, it's got high reflective metallic look. It does look very metallic in person, which is kind of the look I'm going for. So anyways, moving right along, we'll get into probably the next step on this will be painting the spinners and the canopy and the windscreen and all that kind of stuff and getting that blue done. But yeah, we're moving right along. So now that we get all that painted up here, you'll see I start masking off in order to paint the forward canopy blue. While I do that, the main canopy as well as the spinner also gets painted blue. Really unique scheme that this aircraft carries. And once that's all done here, you'll see I start with the decals. Not a lot of decals for this scheme, but there's some bigger awkward ones. Took especially the fuselage lightning bolts. Took a little bit to get them down, especially around the canopy door that's open. So it took a little bit to get those in the right location, but once they were down and settled, these decals worked really well. Took the solver set really nice, settled down without any issues, and they definitely look amazing on the kit. Okay, quick update on this. As you have been seeing, I have been working on the decals. It's just out of frame here, but I got a whole pile of used decal backing paper that I gotta throw out. Now, the one thing I'm not sure if any of you did catch up on while watching that was the propeller. So the propeller has the decals that come in it for the tips because it is the red and white and the red, and it's a pretty hard decal to do, shape to do by hand. Now, while I was putting the decals on this side, I realized that there would be a little bit of a black edge showing, and it would need to be touched up anyways. But even if I did do a good job with that, these decals require you to basically touch them up no matter what you do. And here's why. If you look, I want to zoom in here just a little bit, just so you guys can get a good view of what I'm doing. So there is the prop in the instructions as I built it. And if you see, the prop blade shape matches, and the tip is on. When you flip it over, the blade tips are reversed, right? So here, the flat side's on the right and the tip curls over. On this side, the flat side's on the left and the tip curls to the right. The decals are not mirrored. They are the same. So when you go to put them on the back, instead of being red, they're backwards. So the only way to make the decal actually fit is by putting the decal on upside down, putting the red against the prop and having the white back color show. Not ideal. It's a huge oversight by the kit, by Airfix. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge oversight by Airfix. They should have been mirrored. So the only way I can do it is either paint everything by hand, or in this case, I put them backwards. As I said, I have to touch up around the edge anyways, because of a little bit of the black prop that still shows through. It doesn't cover the plastic perfectly. So I'm gonna go ahead and touch that up with some white paint, and then I will go ahead and then also you'll see there's a little bit, I'm not even in frame. Look at that. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead. You'll see here along the edge, there's this little bit of black where the plastic part of the propeller is showing through. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and touch that up with white. Same on this side. You'll see there's some spots here where the red doesn't quite go all the way to the edge. I'm not even focused. I gotta get this out of the way. Where do I put that? Put that up there. Okay. So yeah, you can see here, there's a little bit where the red doesn't quite cover the edge. Same here, big lip on the edge where the decal doesn't cover the plastic. So I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna touch up all of those edges with white paint, hide all of that nonsense, and then I'm gonna get the red paint, and I'm gonna go through and touch up the part on this side that's red, including the entire back side of the decal in red. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be better than it is. And then, when you actually get it mounted to the front of the plane, it's gonna look awesome. I mean, that's gonna be a really cool looking plane when it's finished. So very, very happy with that. Little disappointed with the quality of that decal. You know, something Airfix 110% should have caught at the manufacturing stage. Everybody makes mistakes, but that's, you know, that's a big one. I'd be tempted to look at any other test builds that they've made of this kit to see how they managed to make it with the wrong prop on the back. Anyways, what are you gonna do? So that's my next step. I'm gonna go ahead. I'll do it right now, actually, and that'll give all of this time to really dry before I move on and paint the red. Otherwise, decals turned out looking great. Very, very happy with the quality. Went down very nicely. The 80 on the wing, the decal settled down nicely. Bit of an issue just when it shrunk around the hump. That line is a little crooked, but I mean, you really need to know what you're looking at to notice it. They should have made the decal a little bit of an oblong shape so that it would settle in there properly, but yeah, minor issues. All the decals went down great. They all settled in nicely. Carrier film has almost completely disappeared. It's gonna look unbelievably good when it's all finished. So very, very happy with how it turned out, other than the props, but I'm fixing that now. So we'll jump into a time lapse. I'll get this prop painted white, and then we'll come back and finish all that off and move on to sealant and a little bit of weathering. So here we go. So here we are at a good point in the build to, in my opinion, catch an update. So the aircraft is decaled, it's sealed. I've done just the hint of exhaust staining. You can actually barely see it, just enough. Just enough that you can tell that there's something there. It's better when you can actually like see it in person. You can kind of see there's a little bit of a flat black line, which is exactly what I wanted. So the next couple of steps, I'll be doing on this are going to be pulling off the masking, which I'll start doing here while I talk. But I'm gonna pull the masking off of the canopies, pull all of the masking out of the cockpit, because I don't need any of that anymore. There's no more painting to be done on this with an airbrush. All the other painting that is left will be done by hand. So I can start pulling that masking off. And the next step is going to be painting the radiators underneath here, which I can do by hand with a brush. I got everything ready to go here. And that's strictly because I'm gonna do the black wash on it, so that's gonna pop. And at the same time, I'm going to black wash the landing gear so that it can be installed, because we are very close to having this completed at this point. So you can see if I put, just gonna have some fun here. Just want to see what this is going to look like when you get everything put together. It's exciting, very exciting. Oh, yeah, that's going to look really, really good on a shelf. Anyways, everything's been gloss coated. The props, I'm sure if you've been watching, the prop has another coat of Future on it, so it is sealed. The spinner has a coat of the Alclad clear, as does the canopy, as does everything else. And I did that specifically because this part of the blue here on the forward fuselage will get hit with Alclad clear. And if I did a different style clear on the canopy or the prop spinner, the two blues might look a little different. So I went ahead and did everything in Alclad clear just so that all of the paint would have the same color. Sometimes a gloss coat, especially I've noticed with Future, when you apply Future, it will darken colors. And I wanted to make sure I didn't have any variation in the color. A little bit of overspray on that, but nothing I can't take care of. it's going to be open anyway, so it's not really going to matter. So I'm just going to jump into a time lapse here, and we'll get this cockpit pulled out, and then I'll get these radiators painted. It's going to look so good. I can't wait. The other thing I have to do, just while I'm thinking of it, I have to paint. I got to put the seat back in because that broke, and then I got to paint this piece here behind the cockpit. It's got to be painted in the cockpit green color, and then there'll be some little pieces back there which I'll paint black once I get those installed. Yeah, this is really good. Okay, let's jump to a time lapse, and we'll come back in a little bit and catch up on another update. So here you will see I'm just working my way through some of the little things. I get the maskings pulled off. I get the cockpit seat glued back in. I broke off a couple of locating tabs when it fell out, so that took a little bit to get back into the right location. Landing gear gets glued in, wheels get painted, the wheels get glued on. All these little things that just need to be done. A lot of little things I left off the kit as I was building. I just start poking my way through and getting those things done. And here you see we're starting to get close to the end. I get the propeller all glued together, get it ready for it to be assembled on. The gear doors get glued on. The radiator exhaust doors get glued on. I finally glue the rudder on. All these things that I have a high chance of breaking off as I'm working on the kit. I add all that stuff right at the very end. And then I finish it off. The very last thing I did was glue the canopy on. That obviously it's white glue. It doesn't have very much stick factor, and it's very easy to knock it off. So I do that at the very end, and then I'll wrap this video up with just a couple of shots of the aircraft taken in the final photo shoots. You can see how amazing this looks in the Alclad. Very happy with how it all turned out. And yeah, we'll wrap it up there. So again, if you guys have any questions, concerns, by all means, down below in the comments over on Facebook, private message me if you want to keep things kind of offline. But yeah, that's my Airfix 148 scale civilian Spitfire Mk XIV. So thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.